Well, hello and welcome to the podcast again. I'm really excited because today we have Tania Gomez with us. Tania Gomez is someone who has helped at least 8,000 businesses get registered, and she's someone who loves helping small providers grow and medium providers grow, and she helps people break through the ceilings that we always find ourselves hitting. It's like, Tania, uh, if you had one thing that brings you joy in helping other providers to thrive, like what is it that brings you joy?
Look, I'm a teacher by background, and I really love when I see someone master what I've been trying to teach them. So that teachable moment of, during the audit process, there's lots they learn. And I love when I go through one audit with them and they're just learning and they're not quite sure. And then at the next audit, when you go through it with them, they've aced it, they've learned it, they've mastered it, and they no longer need me because they actually understand it. So to actually see that impact, that improvement, that we've got the outcome that we set out to achieve, for me, that's why I do it.
That makes sense. And Tanya, I guess you didn't get to this point by having it easy. Okay. No one gets to, the top of their food chain by just taking 5 days a week off. It's like it was hard yards for a long time. What are some of the sacrifices you used to make in your life, in your business, so that your business could succeed that you're not willing to make anymore? You've just decided that's not for you anymore.
Look, I think I've always been a chronic workaholic.
Right.
I love to work. I think what I'm no longer willing to sacrifice is my health or myself. So I'm a mum of four. I've been pregnant or breastfeeding for 13 years of my life. And doing that while growing and scaling my own businesses. And I think all of that, I always put everybody else first. I put my children first, my business first, my team first. And I'm no longer willing to do that. So I really do believe now that you need to put the oxygen mask on first. And I'm unapologetic about things like going to the gym or for a run and really prioritizing it. I go and get a facial or a massage once a month. I book it in my diary like it's an appointment that I can't break. So I do those things because I feel like otherwise I get so involved in everybody else's problems and solving them that it's at the detriment of actually my health and my well-being. So I'm no longer willing to do that.
That makes sense. And how do you switch off at the end of the day?
Um, I don't think I ever fully switch off. I think my neurodivergent brain always has 1 billion things happening in it, but I'm always really satisfied at the end of the day of the amount that I've achieved. And usually at the end of the day, I'm falling asleep with a 3-year-old and patting her to sleep and fall asleep in her bed. So I get lots of lots of beautiful cuddles to end my day and really feel satisfied with both my family and my work life when I'm laying down to go to bed at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. And not every day is perfect. I get that. But it's nice when you've set up structures that make things work.
Yeah.
So, what are some structures you've put into place? Because everyone has the intention of going to the gym, everyone has the intention of tucking their kids in at night, but then it's structures that keep us doing that. What are the structures you've got in your life that stop work taking over your life?
Yeah, look, I'm probably one of the most organized people that there are. I think if there's one superpower I have, it's time management. Between running multiple businesses, having 4 children, doing a PhD, and having a life. I'm really big on lots of planning. And so I have my, as an example, I have my whole 12 months in ahead done for every event I'm going to, every family holiday, every school pickup I'm doing. All of it is in my diary pre-planned. So about 80% of my life is planned for the year. And then I have actually times in there that are blocked out for free time. And that free time can be whatever project comes up between. I don't know if you've read the book, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It's my
Yeah.
favorite book. I love
Yeah.
it. And I block in my gym time. I go to the gym at 5 a.m., 3 to 4 times a week without fail. And really, if it's in my diary, it happens. And it's that thing that, a goal without a plan is a dream. And for me, I make everything actionable. So I break down whatever project I'm working on, what the goal is, and I break it down into chunks into my diary. And as soon as it's in my diary, it's considered done. And pretty much every single thing is in my diary. So every school pickup, every hair appointment, every dentist appointment, all of those things are in my diary. And I put in the family things first. So, like, I don't do events in school holidays, as an example. I have 1 week of every school holidays off. In the Christmas school holidays, I only work 2 days a week, and all of that is by design. And I block out the other time. So I put family in first, then I put in my work schedule, and then I put in, anything else that needs to go in. And I think without that level of planning, so I plan it for the year, but then I look at my diary for at least an hour a week. I'm going through and refining, improving, and moving things around. And I'm constantly working on what works best. So I've tried mornings without meetings. I've tried afternoons without meetings. I've tried set days of meetings only. I've really worked around finding what works for me and playing around with getting a rhythm and a cadence to all of my structures from work and personal to be able to fit everything in.
That makes sense. And a lot of people listening to this are in, say, the first couple of years of running their own provider. And they may be in a spot where they say, oh, because of my stage of the game, I don't have time to look after me or to look after my family. I have to go and spend my time chasing whatever feels urgent. What would you say to someone who, they probably got, say, 10, 20 staff under them, and they're working, say, 55 hours a week. They don't want to be, but they're saying to themselves, I can't change this. What would be your advice to someone in that spot?
Yeah, I think it's about systems and processes and really looking at all the things you're having to do in a day and figuring out what actually do you need to do. So what are the non-negotiables that you have to do? So in my business, I have to do payroll. I don't have someone else that can do payroll. I have access to my bank. I have to be the one that does podcast interviews. I have to be the one that records content. I have to be the one that attends our SIL summits and facilitates those. So that's what I have to. Then what do I want to do? I want to, be available for my staff X number of hours a week. So there's what I have to do that has to be me, and then what I want to do. And both those things are equally important to me. What I have to do and what I want to do are both important. And then I work out what can someone else do. So I look at every process in my business. And as an example, if you come and work with me, you want me to be the one consulting to you, but you don't care who puts the logos on your forms, or you don't care who sends the documents to you. So in my workflow, I figure out what can a system do? What can my offshore staff do? What does someone in Australia need to do? And I push down everything I possibly can. And sometimes that doesn't work and it pops back up and sits with me. But I continue to try. So I've pushed down things like managing my diary. That didn't work for me, so I've taken it back. But at least I tried. But in my onboarding process, I figure out what can be automated with a system, what needs to be me, what needs to be a human, and work all of that out. And by doing that, I'm only left with the things that absolutely have to be done by me. And everything else can be pushed down to somebody else. And whether that's a staff member in Australia, a staff member overseas, a system, a process. And that way I'm always focusing on the most highly valuable bit that is either what I want to be doing or what has to be done by me. And in the early stages of business, that might be really hard to do, but there are things you can push down, like things like generating an invoice. I know I'm certainly not the best to do that. I would make a mistake every time. And sometimes it seems like a false economy, you're doing everything yourself anyway. So as an example, going through the audit process, lots of people try to do this themselves. And what ends up happening is they end up failing at audit, or they end up devoting so many resources to getting through the audit process that it costs them thousands of dollars, where they could have just diverted those resources to having an expert like me come in for a very small part of time. So I do that in my team. We do all of our marketing posts 12 months in advance, as an example. But we can't do that with our team. They would be swamped. Nothing else would happen. So we get 3 or 4 extra people for 2 months. We all work on it for 2 months, and then we don't have them for the rest of the year. So we can just contract people for that period of time to get that piece of work done, and then it can be maintained internally very easily. So all of those things come down to knowing the work, knowing what your skill set is, where can someone else help, and either externally contracting that to experts or bringing resources in. And you can do that when it can actually save you money and make you more money by you focusing on the most important things as opposed to the urgent things that you've just left that might actually not be best served by you doing them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I fear that there'll be people listening to what you say and go, yeah, but I can't because. It's like, if you can't do that because, you either have to find a way or you wrap up your business and you go back to life, because it doesn't make sense to become slaves. A lot of what you're seeing in your world is people you're working for, they there's a lot of slavery out there of people being slaves to themselves. What would you say to someone who's effectively being a slave to themselves?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to think you're running a business when you've actually bought yourself a job, right? And so you need to really think about that. What is what are you trying to achieve in this business? Are you just trying to replace your income that you received from working somewhere else? And are you happy being an employee in your business? And if you are, there's nothing wrong with that. But personally, I like to run a business that is a business that I can have a month of holidays and know that it won't stop, that it's a saleable asset in the future that someone might buy, that is something that leaves a legacy beyond what I could. There's lots of reasons for having a business, but they're kind of the three that you usually aim for as an exit. And to run a business, you can't be a slave. You can't be your only employee. You can't be an employee. You need to be working on the business and not in the business, because nobody else is going to do the work on the business, right? No one's going to care as much as you. No one's going to put the effort in. And actually, your fiduciary responsibility as a director or an owner of that business is to protect that business like it's a baby, like it's your firstborn. You need to do everything you can to make it survive. And that means working on that business and dedicating time and resources to it. And nobody else can do that as good as the owner.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess hearing you say that, I hear the confidence that comes with experience. A lot of people when they're starting out, they're underconfident, so they're doing everything. It's like, I mean, you might say, what a dumb question, Michael, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, because there are people who want to ask this of you. It would be, can your business survive a small mistake? Can it survive a medium mistake? Can it survive a large mistake? Like, how much can you relax a bit knowing that even if things go a bit wrong, it'll be okay? Or is it something you do need to hold on tight to and live in fear about? Like, what would be your suggestions around that?
As a provider, look, I think as a provider, there's lots of risks to your business. There's payment delays of not being paid, which will kill your cash flow, and you'll suffocate as a business and your business will die. It'll be not financially viable. And that's why most businesses die. They become not financially viable. So I think there's a lot of pressure with payment delays, with payment locks, with delays, with, also with extra overtime for staff and extra resourcing and extra costs. So I think finance is something you really need to be across. I think the other risk is losing your registration if you're a registered provider, because you may not be able to continue operate in that space. If you make a big mistake in quality and compliance, you can get a banning order and not be able to work in the sector, and that could also very much impact your livelihood. And then there's lots of other risks when you think about things like staffing and those other types of risks to a business. And I think there's low, medium, and high risks in any business, but in a regulated space, it's a big deal. I think the other thing that is worth thinking about is all of the risks to your participants, because the very worst thing that can happen in your business is you causing the death of someone in your care or seriously hurting them. That would be not just the legal and the financial impact of that, but the human toll on knowing that that was potentially your mistake. You can't get past that. right? Well, I don't think I could get past that. So I think when we're dealing with humans, when we're dealing with people with disability, we have a really big responsibility to get it right. And that's why for me, quality and compliance is the number one area in a business to focus on outside of finance. Those two things together make or break your business. And so you need to do anything you can to prevent those risks happening in your business for multiple reasons. And I think I think the best thing people can do is be educated. And that's why I give away so many free resources. That's why we do podcasts and we do ebooks and we do free events, is all so that people can really start to think about quality and compliance as the foundation to build their business on, and the starting point for a strong and robust business into the future. There's no point working on with a marketing strategy and growing your business and putting more participants in to a bucket that is leaky, or into a house that is going to crumble, because it's just going to cause more issues.
That makes sense. And it's like you've got that the serious nature of it, and you could well lose your business by choosing to step back a bit. But there's also the factor that life happens. I'd rather lose a business than be a slave to it in the long term. But what you're saying is, look, these are the big risks. These are the high level ones. Get them sorted. But
Yeah,
then say a participant complaining because something was wrong color, that doesn't require the director to make a phone call, you
that's
know.
right.
And then what would be another? Because what you're saying, actually, I feel like I've learned more in this podcast than I learn in most podcasts. Uh, what goes through your head when someone says, "Look, she's 30, she's thinking about going out on her own. She's never really had a boss she loved working for. Should she start her own business or should she stay as she is? What sort of things, factors should she consider that she's not already heard from someone else?"
Um, I think anyone considering it should just do it. I think you just do it. Like, what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is it doesn't go well, you go back to the job that you've got now. So, if the worst case scenario is status quo, is where you're living, what have you got to lose? For
Yeah.
me, I left a corporate job on a big pay packet. And for me, it wasn't a risk. I was pregnant at the time. I had saved up 12 months of maternity leave that I was going to use. And I started three businesses the same day instead of taking maternity leave. And I knew I had a 12-month runway, 12 months of maternity leave and government payments that would see me through. And I could do as much free work in that time because I'm not earning money, so it doesn't impact my payments from the government, my parent payments, whatever they were called. And I had 12 months. And for me, it was like, well, I might as well give this everything that I've got. And the worst case scenario is at the end of 12 months, I go back to my job. And I was probably going to do that anyway. And I was happy in my job anyway. So I always just try and work out what's the worst case scenario. And if I can live with the worst case scenario, then for me, it's worth the risk. And if anyone's thinking about starting their own business, it's hard. It's hard work. I'm not going to lie and say it's rainbows and lollipops. It's a lot of hard work, and maybe you're not cut out for it, but you certainly won't know that if you don't give it a go. And if the worst case scenario is you lose a bit of money, you lose a bit of time, and you end up back where you are, but you've got one lesson out of that that might improve your life somewhere along the rest of your journey, then for me, it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. And that's advice I haven't heard from anyone, because the NDI sector is so safe, 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 safe. And people view something like starting their own business as almost on par with having a heart attack. It's like you can survive a failed business. Yeah, like you really can.
Absolutely.
You and I have both done that. And so has everyone else who's ever started multiple businesses. Tanya, I guess what goes through my head is what are you looking forward to in the next few years outside of work? Because we get so excited about our work. Like someone like you, people are always knocking on your door wanting stuff from you. People look up to you, but the reality is it's not who you are. You're just there trying to do a job. Really, you're just there helping people, but who you are inside is not that work. So what are you looking forward to outside of work in the next couple of years?
Well, I have four children. My youngest is 3. She's about to turn 4, and she'll be going to school next year. And I'm really excited to not have any children in school. It'll be 14 years of paying childcare fees. So I'm really excited to have all my children in the school system. I'll have 2 in primary school and 2 in high school this time next year. And that's really exciting, and seeing, their lives evolve. I've got a number of family trips coming up. It's my 40th birthday coming up soon, and we're going to Disneyland Disneyland in Tokyo for my birthday. I'm really excited to do that with my family. I'm also doing a PhD, and I'm doing a PhD per publication where I have to do a research project and then publish the findings. And I've got a number of deadlines coming up over the next couple of years of publishing, and it'll be the first time that I publish an academic article. So I'm really excited about that learning journey of learning to write academically, to learning to, all the feedback that I get from my supervisors over that journey, and really mastering, if I can be so bold and say I'll master it, I'm not sure I ever will, but if I can learn more on the academic writing side of things, it's something that I struggle with because I'm quite a pragmatist. But if I can learn a little bit more in that space and apply what I'm learning through my research back into my field, then they're the things that I'm really excited about outside of the normal, day-to-day work I do.
That makes sense. And then one last crazy question. What do you want written on your tombstone when you die? Do you want Tania Gomez had 8,000 followers? Like, what do you really want?
No, look, I hope I leave behind a legacy, and can say that I've impacted the lives of people with disability through helping build a really strong NDIS provider network or provider landscape. I really am passionate about helping small and medium businesses survive and thrive, but so they can do amazing work with participants, so they can do amazing work in the lives of vulnerable communities. So if there was something that I could have on my tombstone, it would be that I left a legacy beyond myself, that my daughter, my sons, my children, my grandchildren can think about the impact that I made, and be proud of me, and be proud of the work that I've done, and feel like maybe the sacrifices and the long days that they see me work is worthwhile. And more than anything, that they can see that through my example, they can achieve anything that they want to achieve in life.
I love it. That makes so much sense. Who wouldn't want that on their tombstone? And it's also a reminder that we're not just here to do a job. You can always get more money, but you can't solve relationship problems that happen when you miss the mark. Like, good on you for what you're doing. Thank you for all that you've contributed. I know you do so many things behind the scenes that almost no one even knows about. I appreciate what you do for people, and I see the resources you're putting out there, and I'm seeing people who are getting value from that. So thank you so much for what you do. If someone wants to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
Yeah, on all the socials, it's Tania Gomez Consulting, or they can jump on the website, which is just taniagomez.com.au.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.